And how did you assimilate to the lifestyle here? Because it's very different from what you're used to. Please tell us about that.
For sure. For me, I would say it was pretty easy to adapt. I wouldn't say that it was difficult for me personally. Number one, just being raised in Ghana itself gave me an exposure to the culture here. I wouldn't say there's really much of a difference in terms of, culturally wise, some of the food, maybe how they would prepare certain food is a little bit different.
Yeah.
And also just living in New York City for over 20 years, I think really also helped me transition pretty easily because, there's a lot of similarities, and it's a city just filled with people from different nationalities and stuff like that. So for me, it was not that difficult. I blend in pretty well.
So I would say the same. There are difficulties and challenges, you guys.
Oh, for sure.
Let's not negate that. However, I think you and I also have that in common, where our life or our early upbringing back in Ghana has prepared us kind of like for the life that we have here. And we are able to say, there's challenges here, but it's something we've seen before, right?
Absolutely.
It's recognizable, whereas somebody who's lived in the States or lives in Canada their whole life, coming here like straight is like the biggest shocker. So I agree with you on that.
And just to add on to that, what I would say is just be respectful of other people's. I think also being aware of the slight differences, even if that might be language-wise, but just being aware of the slight cultural differences and being respectful. So for an instance, there might be certain norms that people might do that you might not be comfortable with, just not being rude, but being respectful and keeping in mind of the indifferences too, I think helps. And actually taking the time to learn about your culture too helps. When you're open to learn about them, about the cultures, I think it also helps you better understand and better helps you to adapt to that environment.
I agree. I think even for us, I think a lot of Caribbean people think that African living or African culture is similar, and it's not. Like, there are norms in every single culture. There are differences, big differences, in my opinion, yet there are some similarities here that this all comes in the research. Just making simple observations, not jumping to conclusion right away. If you see something is not the way that you were raised, or something is not being done the way that you're used to it being done. All right. So this is one of the biggest questions that everybody has as a medical student. So I'm gonna ask you, and it's simply, how do you study?
Okay, again, thank you for that question. I study based on the syllabi that's provided, and I like to take my time when it comes to preparing for examinations and stuff. So for instance, I would take the syllabi and have a roadmap of the ultimate goal, have the overall objective in my mind, and then I will break those goals into smaller goals. So for an instance, I looked at how many exams might be there in a semester, and instead of worrying about all four of the exam, I just focus on one exam at a time, and I focus on what materials needs to be covered, for instance, for the first exam. What I would do is that after looking at the syllabi and listing down the units that are going to be covered, I will go and use a video. I preferably stick to Boys and Beyond. I think that is very informative, very precise at the same time. short. The duration is not too long. It just focuses on the main points. After watching a Boys and Beyond video, excuse me, I would look at the chapter that's being covered. So for an instance, if it's a physiology unit, I would look at the textbook that's assigned to it. Nowadays, there are softwares that actually read textbook to you. So maybe read that aloud or play the audio for it to read to me. And then do some Anki specifically relating to that. And lastly, just do questions. And I do my best to master, whatever concept is being taught. So I would just do Anki and questions until I've mastered that unit.
Okay, so to add on to that, there is no exact one way of studying in medical school. I think what you're saying is that you are a visual and an auditory learner.
Yeah.
So you have to visualize what you are learning, and you have to hear it too, and that helps others. Some people it's reading, some people it's writing it down. So I think whenever you're coming into medical school, whether you're an IMG or just any medical school anywhere, it's important for you to find out how you best learn. And hopefully by the time you have reached this process, you know that. Because I also know some people who don't know how they learn, and I think that's danger right there.
Absolutely.
I mean, a medical student not knowing how they learn. And also, every single subject is going to be different, and I think that's why you use a specific example of maybe studying for a specific subject, because every single subject is going to be different how you are going to learn it. So that was just the add-on. So moving on to a very big question that I have, okay?
Okay.
So I realized along this journey that there are a lot of people of faith that come into medicine who are doctors, nurses, and so forth. And I feel like this process can shaken a person's faith, or it can strengthen a person's faith.
Absolutely.
So I think I want to ask you, as you have been a medical student, do you think your faith has been strengthened or weakened in this process?
That's a great question.
Thank you.
I feel like the process in which God takes you through is more important than the price at the end. And sometimes when we endure and take on a journey, we don't know what's going to happen in that process. Starting medical school, I personally lost somebody very close to me. I didn't think me losing a family member in that process was ever going to happen, but it pushes you even more, you know what I'm saying? It challenges you. I would say medical school challenges every aspect about you, spiritually, physically, mentally, every aspect about it. But you have to go in with the mindset that I'm going to win no matter what. It doesn't matter how long it takes, as long as you stay on your ground and you understand that God is with you. You understand that, and He will provide you with the resources. You don't have to physically see how He's going to do it. You just have to have the faith, and you have to work butt off. So being prepared for the challenge as well is also extremely important. And just be ready to fight. Be ready to fight. I think it's also, yeah.
So what I'm hearing is your faith has been strengthened.
Absolutely.
Through this process. And all I can say is praise be to God for that, because I know a lot of people who have decided they no longer want to worship God because they don't understand why God is good and how He can allow, like a child being born and having a disease that is totally the mother and the father's fault, or neither's fault. Sometimes we see things and we're like, why? We question. And I think it is normal. We are human beings, but At the end of the day, I think if you are watching this and you're a Christian, do not be deceived. So what I have learned through this process actually is that medicine is the biggest evidence of God's creation, God's existence. Every single time I learn something, especially in anatomy, I'm like, wow. God is the greatest designer. God is the greatest engineer. Look how this person's skin is. Look at the graph, the skin graph of it. Look at the pattern. And everybody else's is different. Oh my God, look at the shade of that person's skin. Look how it's not identical to mine. It's not identical to his or anybody in the room. I just, as I'm reading, I'm like, wow. And as I'm also learning, I'm asking God, God, open up my mind so I can learn more about your creation, your biggest creation. I would say, in some forms, in biblical perspective, we were the only creation that God touched or God breathed into. So we are special, and the more we go into this process, the more I realize it for myself. So moving forward before I get too passionate. So actually, I was once told by my mentor, even before coming on this island, that you shouldn't walk in thinking you're going to specialize in a certain thing. But also, I'm someone who believes in word of affirmation. If you truly want something, I feel like sometimes God lets us have our free will and our way.
Absolutely.
So I think the next question that I want to ask you is, what specialty do you want to go into and why?
Thank you once again for that question. I would say, and actually, I've been known this, guys. This is not something that I think God also gave me that provision, that vision as well. When I was in middle school, no, this was in high school. I'll never forget. I was in an after-school program, and the gentleman was going around the classroom asking people who do they want to become.
Which, by the way, I hate this question now that I'm older. I'm like, I should have told them what I actually wanted to do. Because then people look.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So once it got to me, I said I wanted to become a neurosurgeon. So ever since I verbally stated that, it's like all my attention, my love, my passion has just been invested in neurosurgery, particularly endovascular surgery. So deals particularly with the vessels of the brain. So they're able to perform minimally invasive procedures and put different devices like stents to prevent stroke and just perform procedures as well. When I was in undergrad, I used to work in a neurophysiology lab under the supervision of Dr. Dixon, and he he created devices, particularly in TDCS, transcranial direct current stimulations, and that was a minimally invasive device that was used to treat psychiatric disorders and stuff. So for me, I was just invested in the brain, but at the same time, I wanted to do minimally invasive procedures, because when you actually cut, the more you cut into a skin or you cut into a brain, there's highly chance of infections, and the mortality rate is a little bit higher. So, just being able to make small incisions and being able to treat quite a fatal condition, with minimal risk, I think was very intriguing for me. And also just my fascination with the brain. I was a psychology major as an undergrad. Even like in New York, my room, my house, it's just, you come in, you see pictures of the brain over my room.
Oh God,
so,
you're one of those.
Yeah, so, just in high school, this was the field that I felt like it was a calling. I don't know. I think for me personally, what makes me so passionate about these type of fields is that I never felt like I was pushed into something. Whenever I received the word, and I pray about it. It was more as of a calling for me, so that's why I feel so passionate about it. Yeah.
Wow, that is incredible. I'm shocked myself, but like I'm shocked in a good way because the brain. I think a lot of people will tell you in medicine, the brain is it's very tough. It's tough there. So many vessels, so many veins. You really need to know your stuff.
Yeah.
Like you really, especially what you're talking about, which is even more specific. You really need to know your stuff. It will take a lot of years of hard work, as you have said, a lot of studying, a lot of dedication, and it's something that a lot of people don't want to do. So I'm glad that you want to do that because somebody needs to do it, okay? Somebody needs to step up and say, I'm going to do this. And I'm like solely behind you on this.
And
there are a lot of fields that a lot of people are like, that is a no-go for me. I don't want to go to. I would tell you right now what you just said. 70% of people who are matching in this year don't want to do that.
And what I will also just add on to that is, do research like in the specialty that you want to go specifically go into, understand the requirements, the duration of that residency. I like to be very specific in terms of what I do. So, for an instance, if I'm pursuing something, I like to break down the details. You can't walk in life. You cannot walk in life as if it's an accident, right?
Right, or just casually.
Exactly. If you're going to be investing in medical school with your finances, your time, things that are going to cost you, you need to know what you're going after. So even if it's a car, I know exactly the type of car I want, I know the color of the car that I want. So anything that I'm doing or I'm hunting after, as I would say, I like to be very detailed. Because the more detailed you are about what you're pursuing, the more accurate, I would say, the more focus, it sharpens your focus. You understand? It really sharpens your focus. So I think that too will give you motivation, for you to do it.
Yeah, I also think knowing specifically what you're going for is like helping you in your fight.
Absolutely.
Or in your battle, because you're like, I'm doing this very specific thing that is very rare. There aren't that many people doing this or wanting to enter into what you want to do, and so I agree.
And also to add on to that, so doing research on the specialty, particularly in Ghana as well. I know that in Ghana itself, there's no more than 7 or 8 neurosurgeons serving a population of millions, and neuro or endovascular or interventional neurology, these are all the same thing, but just different terminologies that they use for it. Serving a population of millions was just absurd for me. Certain conditions or trade that's commonly understood in the field of medicine, they think is taboo. So I also see that there's a lack of education there in certain conditions. So I wanted to really close that gap, and for me to do that, I needed to get training myself.
That's true. Can't lead others unless you've gone through that path
Absolutely.
yourself. So moving forward, what are difficulties? I know you mentioned losing a family member earlier in your journey, but what is a challenge or difficulty you have faced in this process, and how did you overcome it?
Okay, so I didn't just lose one family member, I actually lost 2. Yeah, so my aunt, this was it's okay. This was like also just a couple of months ago. My aunt also passed away of breast cancer, and as much as challenging as it was, I think having a support system is very important. When you come here, or it could be in the US or any place that you are working towards in. It's important you surround yourself with people that are like-minded as you. You surround yourself with people that you can talk to. And we're not talking about just like academics, but you can sincerely sit down and have a heart-to-heart conversation with them. There's gonna be times where you're frustrated. There's gonna be times where you put in work, but you're not seeing what you want to see. That all comes with it, you know. But I would say having that support system is very important. It's gonna help you. Having a prayer life is definitely going to help you. Like when I lost my father, this was a period I felt like that really challenged me as a man and even spiritually, where I was very instrumental in keeping the family together. So praying with the family, understanding that we are a unit, we are not separate entities, but when we move as a unit, we move as a family. Having that understanding, and also I'm blessed with a loving, great family. So, I could call my family anytime, have a conversation with them about anything. So, apart from just friends, I think having a family that's understanding, that's loving and caring, helps you in that journey. Just having close people with you, as I said. And another thing that you have to also keep in your mind is that stuff happens every single day. Even when you go into medicine, you're gonna go through something at home. You're gonna have adversities that might happen outside of work, but you have to put yourself together and address your patient's need. You understand? And this is why I love this profession so much, because you have to find a balance. You understand? You have to find a balance between your personal life and your professional life, and being able to understand your well-being, being able to understand your emotions and why they're occurring, and finding a mature way to deal with them. I think it's important, and it will allow you to handle it properly in the future as well.
So to add on to that, you're right. Life still goes on as a medical student.
Yeah.
People get married, people lose their mothers or fathers. People get sick, have detrimental illnesses. But it's not about those difficulties. It's about how you overcome it. And as you're saying, when you're coming into this process, you really need to know the difference between your surface level friends and your intimate friends. Somebody you can call right now and cry to, and it is okay. You can trust that person with your emotions, because as you were saying, it's important to be emotionally intelligent in this process.
Absolutely.
If Atta is not my intimate friend, I'm not gonna go and cry to him. And I find a lot of people struggle in this process. I would say a lot of the ladies struggle in this process. When something happens, they feel that the closest person is the right person, and I disagree.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You can be crying next to me, but I'm not your friend. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's just how things roll. I don't know you. I just happen to be in this process with you. Maybe you're just my classmate, or you're my neighbor. I'm probably not the right person to come to, but maybe your sister is, maybe your mother is, or maybe your childhood best friend is. So it is very important, because I've also seen people use other people's weaknesses against them. It's real out here, it's like a real, everybody's trying to climb some ladder, right?
Yeah.
And people will do things to make themselves look better in this process, and so it's very important.
And there's a great distinction between a classmate and friends. That's something that I think a lot of people don't really understand. And even in the profession and in the field, a lot of colleagues that you're gonna work with don't have your interests, your best interests at heart. So as I said, having that circle outside of the class that you trust, it's important, you know. And also, you know, knowing who to talk to too is very, very important. But at the end of the day, all schools have counselors as well. If you're not the type of person that can make friends or whatnot, you know, reach out to your school counselors. You know, they're there for you for that process. You know, you can trust them, and they're gonna help you solve that situation that you're going through.
Our second last question is, there's so many problems in healthcare right now. What do you think is a big problem in medicine? Just one, because there's so many. And why do you think it is such a big problem?
Okay, well, thank you for that question. I think that as new sicknesses and new challenges arise in the healthcare industry, that comes with adaptation, being able to adapt to run a functional hospital. And some of these comes with, for instance, shortage of staffs. So whenever a hospital have you know, they don't have enough staff, what happens is that they accumulate the level of responsibility for many healthcare providers, which can also lead to burnouts. And also replacing physicians with other roles. So for instance, nowadays, a lot of nurse practitioners are ascending into positions that some physicians will do. You know, and you know, prior to that, a lot of physicians thought that they had great job security. So now they're seeing that they need to make themselves, you know, stand out from their colleagues and stuff like that. And lastly, I would say also just some of the policies that are in place. You know, they put the business first rather than the people, the physicians and the patients, you know. So certain policies that are instilled within the healthcare system is really hurting the patients and the physicians in the long run.
I would definitely agree. I have seen this being done. Like not long ago, I think my mom was, you know, she wanted to do a procedure, and I think they had a physician assistant, like a PA or someone, step in to do the job, and of course they didn't do a very good job because part of their training is not that. So and that creates a lot of medical error, and I'm sure the PA was like, oh, why do I have to do it, you know, kind of thing. So that affects patient care, and that's
Absolutely.
a big thing.
And that's a major concern to patient safety. You know, there's no shortcuts to success, you know.
You can say that again.
A lot of PAs, nurses, nurse practitioners, they're very qualified, you know, in the field, and you know, and we're great, you know, we're grateful for them.
Right, but their practice is not medical school practice.
Right, it's not medical school, but I would say the level of perhaps education or the level of skill asset might differ. You know, there's a reason why we attend longer periods of training and even going into residency as well. And a lot of these administrators and executives, then firing some of these physicians and replacing them with PAs and nurses doesn't really solve the problem in the long run, but it creates more error within the system. It creates and also it puts the patient, the most important person, in danger.
Yeah, I agree. So our last but certainly not the least question is, what encouragement do you have for somebody entering into medical school today? That's whether they are, I always say, a young person like yourself, somebody who doesn't have, like, let's say a family, like a family of your own, okay? A family of your own, and I would say huge responsibilities. Like, I would say it was fairly easy for us to come here because we don't have families of our own, and it's more easier versus somebody who has a family of their own and they're going through this process. So once again, the question is, what encouragement do you have for somebody who's either mature, has responsibilities, or who's young, entering into medicine today?
Hello guys. The biggest advice I would give to aspiring physicians coming into the field is, first and foremost, you got to take the first step. I know as you are applying to medical school, as you are preparing to take the MCAT, you know, a lot of questions are just going through your mind. You might be thinking, am I qualified? Would I ever get in? You know, you would never know if you don't take that first step. You need to put all your insecurities away. You know, if you want something really bad and you don't see yourself doing nothing else. For me personally, I couldn't see myself working as a nurse, as a PA. You know, this was truly my calling. And, you know, it's something that you sincerely want. Go after it. Don't let nobody stop you in your track. Don't allow anybody to instill doubt in you. You know, it's at the end of the day, it's your dream. Invest in it. It doesn't matter how long it takes. You know, you're gonna fall down many times in that process, and that's fine. That's fine, as I said. You know, but you know, it's important that you take that first step. You get up whenever you fall down, and you just keep going. You understand? And for me, every day, one thing I always tell myself, that the biggest difference between a dream and reality is the actions that you take in that process. Work your butt off. You know, whenever you get that opportunity, you know, work your butt off and always keep your faith as number one. You understand? Always keep your faith. The Lord is the supplier of all things. If you don't understand something or you don't have something, just ask Him for it and be patient with Him, you know. And at the end, oh, glory be to God, He's going to surprise you and He's going to receive His praise and glory. All right, thank you.